Last trading week, the US dollar lost ground, but is perhaps support nearby? That is the main question, I would say, on the euro dollar, pound USD, and we'll take a look at the dollar yen and AUDUSD as well. Be aware though that this video is intended for a global audience. It may not be suitable for everyone. To find out information about that and other conditions and details, visit admiralmarkets.com, select your country of residence, and contact an appropriate entity. Also, trading for exchange and global financial markets is considered high risk and may not be suitable for everyone. Therefore, please seek the advice of an independent financial advisor for more information on that. This video is for educational and informational purposes only, and by continuing watching this video, you agree with this disclaimer and you are aware of the risk involved when trading. Alright, starting with the pound USD 4-hour chart, what I see, of course, is a strong momentum to the downside, and it was a fast, quick impulse, and price is now correcting that momentum to the upside. That's why I have a fib from top to bottom, and you can see the price respecting that fib, 23.6 fib, 38.2 fib, and the 50 fib, all of them where price is neatly stopping at these levels before continuing to a higher fib. So could price go up to this fib and this fib? I think it could. Obviously, we never know which fib could be the turning spot for more downside, or if we get that at all. In that case, the main invalidation level is this trend line, and the top, obviously, if price breaks through that, then this is not that bearish start of a downtrend, but perhaps the completion of a downtrend, and price could be reverting back to the upside. So from that point of view, slowly but surely, we're getting into this channel to the upside, and it could keep pushing and hit this fib and this fib, which could be turning spots, or unless price, of course, breaks, as I said, this trend line in top. So from that point of view, if I zoom into the hourly chart, if it breaks this resistance level here, this trend line around 153.40, there could be the breakout to the upside up to that 4-hour resistance fib, the 61.8 at 154.50, right? Or perhaps even the 78.6 fib, because typically what I see is that price respects fibs in about 3 out of 4 times on that particular time frame. So far, we've had nice 3 respects, which means that perhaps this time the 61.8 will be skipped. The price could accelerate all the way to the 78.6 fib and hook back more or less right away to this trend line. All right, so that could happen. I still, of course, there's still a decent chance that the 61.8 fib will be respected as well. So that could be a bit to the upside on the hourly, because hourly everything is aligned to the upside. Moving averages are aligned. Big uptrend on the hourly, and if it does keep pushing, there is that space to the next fib, just like price respected here the 23.6 fib, but then ultimately after a pullback continued, it respected the 38.2 fib, but after a pullback continued, so it could be the same here. All right, from that point of view, I'll be interested in it. Now, if it doesn't go out, or if it fails at this resistance and turns back down, then I would still think that there's support level probably around here, actually, at this previous bottom, and it could still turn back up at this support level for that move up. If it breaks that level, then things could look differently. Maybe from a point of view, the turning spot. And once it breaks through this bottom level here, 152.50, there could be a breakout, a trade to the downside to retest, for instance, this bottom. And if that bottom breaks, then of course we can set further downside continuation as price breaks 151 down to perhaps 149.50 and these targets like this, right? So that would be the invalidation level or that should be the confirmation level perhaps for downtrend continuation on this pound USD. If you look at the daily chart, you can see that, if price does make it all the way up here, it could be an interesting resistance zone because of this trend line here. And the top, of course, if that breaks, then, this is not looking as bearish as it once did. And maybe there could be some space to the upside like this. So important zones right here, a bit higher, and right here, this bottom, of course, as well, for distinguishing perhaps turnarounds or breakouts. I'll be updating my view on the pound USD and the other pairs. In fact, tomorrow, Tuesday, live trading, we'll be taking a look at trendline trading. Wednesday, I take a look at strategy, and then tonight, Nennet has its weekly FX recap. And Wednesday evening, price action looking at Fibonacci retracements. Thursday, together, we take a look at intermarket correlations, Forex market, and others. All right, moving on to the euro dollar, I see bullish price action at the moment. I see heavy support trend lines and layers and zones. Looking at these trend lines, you can see price is certainly above support at the moment. So for downside to happen, price preferably breaks those support levels, and then I see some more space for a fall to the downside. Of course, there was a great trend to the downside here, but this correction has lasted long, and price really needs to break through that support level before we could expect that follow through of that bearish momentum to take place. If it doesn't push through these support lines, perhaps the euro dollar is going to consolidate even longer than it already has. It could maybe even consolidate the rest of the year, especially if the Fed, the FOMC, does not make the decision to do the rate hike this year. Wouldn't be surprised if we get a continuation of this consolidation for several few months. So those trend lines, the support trend lines, very important in that equation. Now, just like the pound USD, we had an impulse here and an impulse here. So that's why I have the fib from top to bottom, and price stopping at the 23.6, at the 50, skipping the 38.2 on this time frame, and the 61.8, and now respecting the 78.6 fib. Could be another turning spot, but price could also go up to the 888.6 fib before making perhaps a retracement or correction like that. So from this point of view, price certainly looking in a heavy resistance area with the top nearby, and of course these deep fibs also. So I'm not very interested in the longs, more interested in finding perhaps a turning spot to the downside of this euro dollar. Now at first, my target would be very limited because obviously there's this bullish structure with support levels close by. So aiming for the bottom here is probably all that's realistic at the moment. And I wouldn't necessarily aim for these breaks. It could break, but then I would try to catch the trade when it, not maybe when it breaks, but after it breaks, pullbacks and shows continuation signals. All right, because I wouldn't aim originally right away for lower, and not assuming right away that these trend lines will break necessarily. But that said, this zone is certainly looking more like a bounce spot for downside than anything. Now, it doesn't have to be the 78.6. It could really be the 88.6 fib. Ultimately, of course, if price does break above this 114.60, then the bearish scenario is out of the window. This is, somehow differently set up. This is not a momentum, or this is momentum, but this is somehow maybe completing momentum and not starting it. And there could be a breakout to this level, for instance, the 116. All right, so in that case, the long term also looking a bit different as well. I would have to reassess it. In that case, it could still be a turning spot at 116, but ultimately, it's certainly not looking as bearish as perhaps it was when price was falling, obviously here. So from that point of view, I'm looking for shorts here. I'm looking for longs in this zone up to here, which could still be a resistance spot, and perhaps bounces at the support trend line. And if it does break, there could be some breakout trades to the downside. That's kind of the map I have in mind when looking at the euro dollar. All right, AUDUSD has been following the analysis pretty closely. We were expecting resistance here, that happened. We were expecting support roughly here, a bit higher actually around here, but did get the bounce, double bottom at 88.6 fib, and now moving up to target. The target is very close, which could be actually a resistance spot for downside. So if anything, the upside now seems a bit too much already, too close to the target for me to look for longs. I did take a long, I think it was on the hourly chart, right about here actually, on this candle, as it showed a good breakout of this bull flag. And I closed it somewhere here for about plus 120 pips. That was very nice. That was a good breakout trade, a good bull flag pattern break in that uptrend continuation, and that was a good trade. Now it's too close. I wouldn't be interested. In fact, if I see signals of exhaustion, I might even consider looking for shorts in this zone. That might not go all too far because I would still consider this top, this bottom here as a support potential for another move up. perhaps to the minus 61.8 target. If that level breaks, then perhaps there could be a bit more bearishness. Slowly but surely, the price could start maybe falling like this. I would consider that a bearish area and start hunting for shorts. Wouldn't jump in that immediately though upon the break of that support level. Ultimately now closer to resistance, and then there is that potential for price to move up to that target, and that could be again a good resistance zone for potential shorts. Last but not least, the dollar yen seems the least interesting. In fact, these trend lines could be a bit of a if they break, but I'm not jumping for joy to trade it right now at all because moving averages are very choppy, and just goes in this very slow corrective price action. So when these trend line breaks, price could just drop a bit, bump into this support level, and then move right back again into that equilibrium point. Breaks to the upside, could move right back into that point as well. Not interesting really to trade in my opinion. 4-hour chart too, very choppy, so ultimately looking for a break of this resistance or a break of this support for more indication about the long-term or even intermediate future here of this dollar yen. Well, that wraps it up. Thank you so much for joining. Hope to see you in one of the webinars this week. Make sure to take a look at Admiral Markets in the social media. A lot of great content and webinars that are provided, and you get information up to date through these channels. Wish you a good trading, many green pips, and talk to you soon. Cheers.